Hey guys! So today you and I are going to talk about biases. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, hi Frederick, would you say that the biases play a role in recruiting decisions, especially when two software engineer candidates seem to be equally good? Yep, I would say so. I've said this many times, guys. The recruitment process of IT is flawed, and it's always going to be flawed, just as there's no objective way for you to pick the best movie or the greatest singer of all time or all these sort of subjective things when humans sort of have a difference of opinion on what's going to be good, what's going to be bad, what's better, what's worse, etc., etc. It's the same thing with the recruitment process. And this is one of the reasons why I try to tell people that usually it's a good idea for you to reflect a little bit on why you're getting rejected, or if try to, there's a, what is it, a saying, try to meet reality on reality's terms. So I spoke to, not that long ago, I was interviewing a junior candidate who had told me that uh, he had felt dissuaded because he had sent out some 200 applications or something like that to various companies, and he hadn't really got any, you know, he hadn't gotten any opportunities. And so I said that this is sort of the, and I've told you the same thing, guys. Like, this is sort of the issue with IT, where it's an expert field, or like software development is an expert profession, where the value that you have towards to a company is usually only, like, it's only tangible after you have experience, which causes that catch 22. You need experience in order to provide value, but nobody wants you to give you the experience because they want you to already have it. That sort of loop, right? And so I said to him that uh, when you're sending out applications and you may not get a reply, that's the bias, basically speaking, where people will not give you an interview simply because you don't have any experience. And that's not necessarily something that has to do with you. I mean, you can't help the fact that you're not already something more advanced. Everybody starts somewhere, right? But then it's not just that. Then when you get into the interview, when you're actually going to talk to some people, there are biases there as well. And each manager or each person who does the evaluation is going to have some bias. In the companies who try to mitigate this a little bit, they usually have some type of balancing. They try to get more than one person doing the interview, or like they have different processes and so forth to try to fight this a little bit. But fundamentally, it is still the opinion of whoever is doing the evaluation of you as a candidate who that's going to have the final say. It's, as I've said 100 times, guys, there is no better measurement than the gut feeling of the person. Being data driven is something that informs our gut feeling, but at the end of the day, it's going to come down to, did you check the arbitrary boxes that they have decided upon that mean something to the company, and did you give a good gut feeling to the people that you were talking to? Because there are plenty of cases where like exceptions are made or so forth and so forth, and some people get excluded because they have a bad attitude and like so forth and so forth. Because well, well, if you think about it yourself, it's the same thing most likely that you are doing in many cases. If you're really honest with yourself when you're picking your favorite restaurant, or you're picking a specific thing and so forth, a lot of it is down to like this intangible sensation that you have of this is good or this is bad, and it's down to your value system. And so there's really no way for you to get around this bias thing, where, as I've said, guys, before, the best investment for you when you're doing software, like when you're interviewing for a position, is to understand what is desirable. from the perspective of the companies, and usually it's the same deal, right? Your bet should be, as I've said 100 times before, guys, your bet should be on the main stuff, like the core skills, your social skills, all these sort of things, because it may not be perfect for every position, but on average it's going to be the best investment for you. Such as, it's basically, it's better for you usually to bet on what is common rather than what is an outlier of something, because your average is going to be better if you go through enough of this, like of whatever you're doing. And doing recruitment processes and talking to companies and so forth is no different, because it comes down to, in this case, understanding what most companies are looking for in their candidates, and I mean, you can try to go your own way, and which the specific candidate did, of course, by explaining that this felt unfair, etc., etc. And I sit there, and this is an interview, and I can only nod and say, yeah, it is unfair, but the reality is that I'm not here to debate with you over the unfairness of biases and stuff like that. I'm here to do an evaluation of you as a potential hire, and the fact that you are showing frustration and you're actually telling me that, yeah, you've been failing over and over. Like, I know that just sending out an application isn't like the end of the world, but then when I get to talk to you, I start seeing why most likely you're not getting any further, because the reality is that, even like, which is of course difficult to explain, but the reality is that even in this case it was a junior software developer, I can tell that you have quite some learning left to do. So if you're convincing yourself that this bias is the only thing that affects your hireability, then you're sorely mistaken, guys. Biases do play a part, but don't do this thing that some people do, where like they just say that, oh, this person is clearly an idiot, or this person is a racist, or this person is like an elitist or something like that. Because biases, yeah, there are absolutely people who are extreme, who are like take these things to the far edges of things and like just basically go on what their own value system is. But it's not a good bet for you to get into the space of, yeah, I'm a victim because the system is so unfair, because on average, guys, most people have some biases, but people always can like appreciate the value of someone who can bring results and actually meets the criteria of what most people consider to be important in whatever they're doing. And that is especially true for software development. If you have strong tech skills and you're very talented and so forth, even if you're a junior software developer, I can guarantee you that the bias will play in your favor, rather, if you actually know what people are looking for. So what I want you to take away from this is that biases are a fact, and they're always going to be a fact in basically anything we humans do, because we are emotional and we have experiences and all this good stuff. And this is no different for you when you're being picked as a candidate for a job or something like that. And you mean, it doesn't have to be a pick between two software developers. It can be on every single meeting you go to. If you are one of those software, like I had a coworker who asked me a very, very good question, which sort of captures this exactly. He asked me, this was for a while back, for a front-end position. He said, are you a front-end heavy, like a UI heavy front-end developer, or a back-end heavy front-end developer? Basically, he's trying to explain that there are usually two types of front-end developers: either the ones that are really good with UI and UX and experiences and stuff like that, but they're usually lighter on the engineering side, and then you have people who are more like me, for example, who are more technically inclined and have a stronger understanding of like all the things, like different ways of engineering and so forth, that can build interfaces and so forth, but I'm not as into like the UI UX stuff, right? And that nuance was very much described the bias thing, because if you talk to, and this is why we try to diverse the opinions, usually I try to promote that in my company at the very least, because if I ask you questions related to technology, then because I have a certain bias for the things that I believe that, say, in this case, a front-end developer needs to know, I will ask you certain questions and feel different. If you don't answer them to my satisfaction, I'm going to have one reaction. Whereas my other coworker, who is more UI related, will have another reaction. But at the end of the day, that's how we are. We try to be the best evaluators and as fair as possible. But everybody has a bias in some regard, and that's why I tell people that it's better for you to try to understand, quote unquote, your customer, or in this case the recruit, like the people doing the interview, and understand what is usually valued by the companies, and bet on that. If you really do well in those areas, then you've done what you can, because the rest of it is really down to dumb luck in many cases. Because in one company, guys, you might impress someone really, really well because they have a bias that is in your favor, and in another company you might do very poorly because you're not their bias is in a they're not putting you in favor. The thing that you should use as a measurement, as I said, is more like how well are you doing on average, because as I said, you can always play the card, play the victim card and say that nobody's giving me a chance, etc., etc., etc. But the only thing that happens when you do that is that you're damaging your own chances of going further. As with the person I spoke to, the reality is that sure, you can be frustrated, and I understand that it sucks. Trust me, I know very well how much this thing can suck. But the reality is that you're going to stay in that position if you get into a habit of having an excuse for trying to be better than you are. Because as I said, guys, biases work both ways. But if they're always not in your favor, then it's more likely that something else is going on than that people are just dismissing you based on some arbitrary thing. Have a great day.